She didn't just take my heart, she planned to steal my life, line by line from our accounts, brick by brick from our home. Wednesday started like any other. I'd brewed my usual pot of dark roast, logged into my terminal by 7:45 a.m., and was 3 dashboards deep into evaluating a client's suspicious activity spikes when my phone buzzed beside the keyboard. It was a text from Erica. Just one line. "I want a divorce. I've found someone else. I've already transferred our retirement funds." I didn't blink. I didn't drop the mug in my hand or fumble the phone. I set both down calmly, my fingers already alt-tabbing into my personal system, an interface I'd built myself, separate from my work at Helix Meridian. It monitored every shared account, every authorized user, every internal trigger across our financial footprint. No one knew the system like I did. That was the point. Erica had always hated it. Not because she didn't understand it, she did. She was sharp, no question. She just thought it was too much. "Do you really need to track every expense like a cop watching a drug ring?" she'd said once, years ago. I didn't answer her then. Just nodded and added 2 more safeguards that night after she went to sleep. She underestimated how much time I spent refining that system. Quietly. Methodically. For years. At 8:04 a.m., my screen lit up with a blinking red notification. Unauthorized withdrawal attempt, $802,000 spread across 3 retirement accounts, 2 Roth IRAs and my employer-matched 401k. The transfer was staged through a third-party routing platform using an identity named Bryant Clare, sent toward a newly registered account in Phoenix. Amateur. She tried to ghost the transfer at 3:17 a.m., assuming I wouldn't notice until after work. But the system logged the anomaly instantly. The IP address didn't match our home network, the MAC address wasn't familiar, and the destination account name, reverse stacked, was flagged by my pattern recognition module. I had coded it specifically to catch account names that reversed known contacts. I'd given the system no heart, no grace, and no options. And today, it showed its strength. The funds were already frozen, triggered by an automated fraud threshold I had programmed 5 years ago, after seeing a client lose $500,000 in a social engineering attack. Erica probably thought she was being clever. What she didn't know was that her actions had already set off alerts not only in my system but also through federal anti-fraud protocols embedded in the financial institutions we used. No human hand had moved to stop her. The software did. She was already too late. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the flickering cursor. A second text came in. "You can keep the house. I don't need it anymore." How generous. After 22 years together, it came down to a transactional farewell and a parting gift like she was offloading a couch she didn't want. I typed one reply. "I hope you're happy." 7 words. Flat. No anger. No bargaining. No guilt. Then I closed my phone, maximized my dashboard, and resumed scanning for anomalies, only now, the target wasn't some anonymous hacker or rogue client. It was my wife. By 9 a.m., every account tied to our household was under surveillance. I didn't need to scramble, I was already prepared. Erica always assumed my systems were a form of control. In truth, they were a form of protection. From outside threats, from inevitable collapse, from betrayal I never wanted to see, but anticipated all the same. I glanced at her credit card activity. 2 weeks ago, she booked a ticket to Denver. Said she had a conference, standard procedure in her role as a senior marketing exec at Sterling Horizon Group. She packed light, kissed me goodbye in the kitchen while sipping half her smoothie, and said she'd be back Sunday evening. We hadn't hugged. Now I noticed the return ticket was a dummy. One-way booking, no hotel reservation through our shared travel portal, no confirmed registration with the conference organizer she claimed to be presenting for. Instead, a secondary transaction pinged, a car rental under the same alias, Bryant Clare, set to pick up at Phoenix Sky Harbor. She wasn't even trying that hard to cover her tracks. And that's what got to me more than anything, the laziness of it all. The efficiency of betrayal. No long talks, no fights, no confessions. Just a midnight bank heist followed by a breakup text. I sat alone in the soft glow of my monitor, the office silent except for the faint hum of central air. Outside the window, Columbus was just waking up. Cars passed in routine, birds shuffled in the oaks, and somewhere, a man just found out his wife wasn't coming home. I wasn't him. I wasn't broken. This wasn't heartbreak. This was a breach. And I would handle it the way I handled every system compromise. By noon, the financial institution had reached out. Account verification was pending investigation. The funds remained locked, unavailable for withdrawal, pending escalation through their fraud review department. Their tone was procedural. Indifferent. It was a comfort, oddly enough. Machines didn't take sides. They followed instructions. And mine were crystal clear. Erica's phone hadn't buzzed yet. She probably thought the money was waiting for her when she landed. She'd log in, maybe even order a celebratory cocktail in some Arizona rooftop bar, and then. Zero. And that was just the beginning. I minimized the dashboard, opened a blank file, and began documenting. Timestamps. Logs. Alert patterns. I wasn't just preserving evidence. I was building my case. Let her think she got away with it. Let her celebrate early. The system would teach her what I never wanted to believe. Money doesn't lie, and betrayal doesn't go unnoticed, at least, not on my watch. There's something oddly clinical about betrayal when you dissect it with data. No screaming, no tears, just rows of numbers, dates, names. I spent my entire adult life with Erica Hayes. And I now realized she had spent the last part of it becoming someone I didn't know. Someone I wouldn't have married. We met in high school. Erica was loud, charming, unforgettable, the kind of girl who could walk into any room and reset its gravity. Everyone wanted to orbit her. I was quieter, focused on numbers, the kid who ran the baseball team's stat spreadsheet and tutored calculus between classes. She said I made her feel grounded. I said she made me feel visible. We married the summer after college graduation, in a backyard ceremony surrounded by fireflies and people who still believed forever meant something. We rented a one-bedroom near campus, started from nothing, and built everything, together, I thought. But even in those early years, Erica had her hallways. She used to call the spare room her creative nook, which eventually morphed into a locked home office with frosted glass and a password-protected laptop. She didn't like me in there. At first, I respected it. Everyone needs space. But then came the shift, the slow, imperceptible crawl of distance disguised as independence. The signs were there. I just didn't want to read them. 6 months ago, she stopped asking about our retirement plans. It used to be her favorite late-night question, where will we retire? Beach or mountains? I'd run projections, build compound interest models on a spreadsheet while she laughed and swirled her wine. Then one night, she stopped laughing. She just listened and said, "Does it ever get exhausting, planning every breath?" I thought she was just tired. Work stress. I didn't know it was the beginning of her exit strategy. 3 months ago, I found a new credit card statement under her name. She said it was for work expenses, but the charges didn't match Sterling Horizon's travel policies. 1 month ago, she started coming home late, said she was prepping for the Denver conference, big presentation, VP's watching, don't wait up. I did wait up. And I watched. Her laptop screen always shut the second I entered the room, the way she bristled when I asked about flight confirmations or hotel names. It was like living with someone who had already packed and was just waiting for the right moment to walk out. One night, 2 weeks before the divorce text, she stood in the kitchen, folding a dish rag in that deliberate, slightly tense way she did when something was brewing. If you love me, Martin, she said without looking up, you trust me. No questions. No systems. Just, trust. I leaned on the counter, watching her fingers tighten over the rag. If you loved me, I said, you wouldn't be afraid of my system. That was the moment I think we both understood, something fundamental between us had expired. And neither of us had the courage to call time of death. Back at my workstation, I started combing through her digital trail, step by step, receipt by receipt. The Denver conference never existed. No registration confirmation. No corporate booking. No reimbursement form submitted to Sterling Horizon's HR department. But there was a one-way flight booked to Phoenix, Arizona. Paid for using a prepaid card purchased under the alias Claire Bryant. The same alias that tried to drain our retirement. I traced the IP address of the transaction, Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport free Wi-Fi, 3:17 a.m. The same timestamp my system flagged the outgoing transfer request. It wasn't a coincidence. It was choreography. I looked up that name, Claire Bryant. Not real, of course. No social tide to it. Just a burner identity she'd likely used before. But she hadn't masked the IP fully. And more importantly, she hadn't expected anyone to look. But I always looked. That was the difference between us. She played perception. I played patterns. I sat back in my chair, let the office light dim as the sun stretched across the blinds. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. Not anymore. This wasn't heartbreak. This was an audit. And Erica had left a trail a mile wide. I rescanned our shared cloud storage. Dozens of photos, work files, tax documents, routine. But tucked beneath a misnamed folder, 2017 receipts, I found something new. A PDF titled Skyline West Meeting Agenda. Opening it, I found more than a fake itinerary. I found him. An e-signature at the bottom, Howard Blackwell. VP of Marketing Operations, Sterling Horizon Group. Married. 2 kids. Known womanizer in their circles. There were emails, too. Coded exchanges. Subject lines like, Project Summit and Sunrise Alignment. But the metadata didn't lie. Flight confirmations to Phoenix. A shared suite at a luxury rental. Her initials on the lease agreement. She wasn't attending a conference. She was staging a disappearance, with a co-conspirator. I don't remember how long I sat there, reading, scrolling, collecting. My fingers moved faster than my thoughts. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I cataloged. I traced patterns. I built timelines. And as I watched the puzzle of my failed marriage come together, I felt a strange sort of relief. Because the system hadn't failed. It had worked exactly as I built it to. Erica hadn't just tried to leave me. She tried to erase me, from our accounts, our future, and our story. But she forgot one thing. In my world, stories are backed by logs. And logs don't lie. Some people find memories in photo albums. I found mine under a layer of dust and deceit. It was late Friday night when I stepped into what used to be Erica's home office. The room had been untouched since her business trip, a sleek, modern sanctuary of minimalism and locked drawers. She always kept it sealed, claiming it helped her focus. I never pushed. In hindsight, that was my first mistake. Letting a closed door become a blind spot. I hadn't planned to search through anything. I'd only gone in to turn off the smart light she always left on overnight. But as I crossed the room, a subtle glint from beneath the desk caught my eye. I knelt, moved aside a storage bin full of glossy marketing samples, and there it was. A silver laptop. Older model. Scuffed corners. Power cable still looped around it. Covered in dust, forgotten, or meant to look forgotten. I stared at it for a beat. My gut told me not to touch it. My system told me I couldn't ignore it. Erica had once asked me to disable the password on that machine. It's old, slow, just for backup, she'd said. And I hate having to type the password in every time. That small favor was now the key to unlocking her true intentions. I powered it up. The boot screen came alive with a hum, outdated OS logo flickering faintly. No password prompt. A single user profile. I clicked in. The desktop was clean, eerily so. Just 2 visible folders, marketing backups and home plan, private. The second one wasn't locked. My pulse steadied as I opened it. Inside were 5 files. Innocuous names. But I've learned the most dangerous information rarely announces itself with flashing lights. 1. Budget_scenarios.xlsx. 2. Voice_memos, folder. 3. Slide_pitch_plan.pptx. 4. Travelogphoenix.pdf. 5. Redacted_emailprints.zip. I opened the Excel file first. Rows and rows of numbers. Schedules. Transaction times. Notes about account balances, mine, hers, ours. Projected timelines for fund clearance. She had calculated to the hour when I was most likely to be asleep, using data points like caffeine intake, bedtime averages, and weekend sleep-ins. There was even a conditional format embedded to highlight green zones for optimal transfer windows. She hadn't just guessed. She measured me. If I was a security system, she had built the perfect inside job. I clicked through to the voice memos. The first recording began with background chatter, airport sounds, clinking glass. Then her voice, calm, confident, and far too familiar. Martin trusts his system more than he ever trusted me. You know what that means? It means I can use it against him, and he'll never see it coming. Then Howard's voice, warm and smug. That's poetic, babe. Take down the fortress from the inside. The recording clicked off. I listened to 5 more. In one, she outlined her cover story if I caught her early. In another, she discussed wiping browser logs, clearing metadata, and even creating a fake burner account to send herself anonymous threats, just in case, she said, I need to flip the narrative. The third file broke me in a way the others hadn't. If this backfires, Erica said, I'll just say he was controlling. Martin tracks every dollar I spend, every move I make. I'll use his own emails as proof. My throat tightened. She wasn't bluffing. I opened the zip file, redacted_email prints. Inside were PDFs of old emails, some I'd sent when we were arguing, others from years ago, when I was reminding her to log expenses or asking why she withdrew cash from our emergency fund. One in particular caught my eye. Subject line, are we okay? Text, you've been distant lately. I'm worried about us. I need to understand what's happening. She had underlined, I need to understand what's happening, and highlighted it in red. In the slide deck I opened next, slide_pitch_plan.pptx, there it was again, repurposed as evidence of emotional manipulation. That entire presentation was a media strategy. Slides titled, If He Goes Public, Leveraging Sympathy, Reframing the Narrative. Bullet points read like a lawyer's playbook for emotional warfare. If confronted, cry. Say he weaponized surveillance. Frame Martin as obsessed with control, not protection. Introduce the term, digital coercion. Emphasize helplessness. Plant seed, what else might he be hiding? My breath grew cold in my chest. This wasn't a divorce. This wasn't even theft. It was a coup. A fully realized digital mutiny. She had built a campaign, polished the angles, rehearsed the headlines. It wasn't just about money. It was about erasing me from the story we'd written together, and rewriting the ending with her as the victim and me as the villain. And here I was, reading the script before she got to perform it. I sat in that office, her sanctuary of secrets, for what felt like hours. I replayed every dinner where she smiled too perfectly, every business trip where she kissed my cheek like a chore. I remembered how she used to call me her anchor, and how that shifted, over time, into wait. She didn't just plan to leave me. She planned to bury me. Quietly. Professionally. Publicly. I closed the laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I uploaded everything, every file, every memo, every breadcrumb, into a secure partition on my server. Then I wrote a single-line entry in my logbook. Asset discovered, laptop, hostile intelligence confirmed, initiate phase 2. From this point forward, I wasn't the husband. I was the system. And it was time to go live. The first sign that Erica's plan had backfired came exactly 48 hours after her initial transfer attempt. The silence. She expected instant access to $802,000. Instead, her screen probably blinked back at her with an error code, or worse, a blank balance. That's when she started calling. 17 calls in 2 hours. Each one came in like a dropped match on dry timber, trying to ignite the fire she hoped still burned in me. But I let them ring. On the 18th, I answered. Her voice was clipped, on edge, an attempt at control unraveling fast. "Martin," she said. "I don't know what happened, but the account isn't working. I can't access anything." My tone stayed measured. "There's $3,000 in the joint checking account. I haven't touched it. You're welcome to use it." A beat of silence. 3,000, she snapped. "Martin, that's nothing." I kept my voice flat. "You thought 800,000 would be enough for your new life. Seems 3,000 should be more than generous now." She started to speak, maybe to justify, maybe to beg, but I ended the call. Erica never understood what restraint looks like from a man built on control. She thought I'd lash out. She didn't realize the most dangerous response is silence backed by a fully operational system. By the next day, her attorney, Tracy Calderon, emailed a formal request. Emergency support. Temporary access. Basic needs. Her phrasing was deliberate, clinical. Victim-coded. I replied with a single sentence. Erica considered $802,000 an acceptable withdrawal without consultation. The $3,000 she left behind will now serve as her emergency fund. That same hour, I forwarded every file from the laptop to federal investigators. A contact at the Eastern Financial Crimes Division, Gregory Harris, had already flagged my report for high-priority review after initial indicators showed connections to corporate embezzlement. The contents of Erica's secret stash confirmed it. Over the next few days, the real scope began to surface. Erica and Howard weren't just sleeping together or siphoning off retirement money. They were orchestrating a complex scheme targeting their employer, Sterling Horizon Group, and its clients. Through a carefully disguised trail of shell companies and forged vendor contracts, they had been laundering marketing budgets into dummy accounts and reinvesting the money through real estate under fake buyers. One of those buyers, a shell identity registered under a woman named Sierra Vance, supposedly interested in purchasing my home at the original listing price of $300,000. The market value now stood near $500,000. It wasn't just betrayal. It was asset theft. They were going to buy my house under a false identity, flip it for profit, and vanish. She didn't just want to leave me. She wanted to steal my future, down to the square foot. That's when the fire ignited, not rage, but clarity. I wasn't going to just block her or catch her. I was going to dismantle the entire infrastructure she believed was invisible. And then, something unexpected happened. While tracing IP addresses used to submit the real estate transfer forms, a flag popped on one of my internal dashboards, the system I managed at Helix Meridian. That alone wasn't odd, the forms had been processed through email, web forms, even encrypted PDF uploads. What was odd was the access log. One of the login attempts had originated from within Helix's internal network, our secure environment. At first, I assumed it was an accidental overlap. A coincidence. But as I pulled the metadata, the MAC address matched a machine registered to our Director of Systems Operations, Hannah Reeds. My mentor. The woman who had recruited me out of grad school. Who once told me, never build a system that makes you comfortable. Build one that keeps you paranoid. She taught me that. She was the first person to review my system architecture, the very foundation of the software Erica had tried and failed to bypass. Now she was inside it. I stared at her access pattern. One login, 32 minutes of activity. She downloaded reports tied to file movement, not her department. Nothing overtly illegal. But enough to suggest she was watching. So I asked for a meeting. The next morning, I walked into her corner office on the 11th floor. Hannah sat behind her desk, blazer crisp, nails perfect. Her screen glowed faintly behind her, and a closed cup of tea rested by her elbow. "Martin," she said, looking up. "You look like a man with a confession. Or a question." I traced an access pattern, I said, connected to a flag transfer attempt through an external channel. "Originated on your terminal." She didn't blink. Just smiled. "You really are as good as I thought," she said. "Tell me, when did you start to suspect?" "Yesterday. But now I'm confirming." She nodded slowly and leaned back, fingers steepled. "I didn't interfere with your system," she said. "I observed. That's all." Erica was foolish. She left fingerprints everywhere. "Why would you even look?" Her eyes locked onto mine. "Because I built the original framework you used. You've layered on beautifully, yes, but the bones are mine. And sometimes, Martin, it's fascinating to see what people do when they think the machine is blind." My mouth went dry. "This wasn't your fight," I said. "She stole from me. She tried to frame me." "I didn't help her," she replied evenly. "I watched her. I wanted to see how far she'd go. And now we know." "You could have stopped her," I said. "I could have. But where's the lesson in that?" Her words hit like ice water. "This isn't about love or loyalty," she said. "It never was. I don't build systems to protect people, Martin. I build them to reveal them. You wanted a firewall. I wanted a mirror." My jaw clenched. "And what did you see?" She leaned forward, voice soft. "I saw that you were stronger than her. And I needed to be sure. Because the next breach might not be personal. It might be institutional. You passed." I stood in silence, heart pounding. This wasn't mentorship. It was monitoring. Erica had tried to take everything from me. But Hannah? She had known, and waited. Like a scientist watching a virus spread, not to stop it, but to study it. There was no sympathy in her eyes. Only data. No comfort. Just calculation. No love in the system. Just roles, manipulator and manipulated. And in this play, I'd become both. I left her office without another word. Outside, the wind bit through my coat. Downtown Columbus buzzed as usual. Nothing looked different. But everything had changed. Erica had failed to break me. But Hannah? She reminded me what true power looks like. Not striking first. But waiting for your opponent to hit themselves in the mirror you built. Some men seek revenge with fists, others with fire. I preferred a clean chain of custody and a time-stamped audit trail. 3 weeks after my conversation with Hannah Reeds, I was summoned as a key witness in the federal investigation into financial misconduct at Sterling Horizon Group. My role was simple: provide technical validation. My intent? Less so. The courtroom smelled like dust, old paper, and anticipation. Everything was beige, the walls, the suits, even the tension. Yet the evidence I carried in my briefcase was black and white. Blunt. Unforgiving. They called me to the stand just before lunch on a Tuesday. The federal prosecutor asked me to identify myself. I gave them the resume version: Martin Hayes, Senior Financial Systems Analyst, Helix Meridian, 20 years in data security and fraud detection. Then he said, "Mr. Hayes, in your expert opinion, can you walk us through what your system discovered?" I nodded, opened my laptop, and mirrored the screen to the courtroom's display monitor. I didn't give them emotion. I gave them structure. "Here," I began, tapping the space bar. "This is the point of initial unauthorized access, 3:17 a.m., routed through Phoenix Sky Harbor's public network. The identity used was a synthetic shell, Claire Bryant. Not traceable to any legal identity. Now, if we move forward." Click. "This is the flagged transfer request, $802,000 routed from 3 retirement accounts, split into staged transfers to obfuscate tracking." Click. Next, you'll see a predictive behavioral model that Erica, my former wife, developed using our own spending and activity logs. She attempted to predict when I would be asleep to time the extraction unnoticed. The jury leaned in. "And this," I said, opening the voice memos folder, "is a recording recovered from a secondary device found in her private workspace." I played the clip. "Martin trusts his system more than he ever trusted me. That's the irony. I'm going to use it to destroy him." The courtroom went silent, as if the oxygen had been replaced by data. "And the PowerPoint presentation," I continued, "was a media strategy. She had outlined contingencies in case she was caught, including how to paint me as emotionally abusive through selectively redacted emails." Click. Slide. Bullet points on display. Frame as controlling. Leverage surveillance. Cry if necessary. The judge's brow creased. Howard Blackwell's attorney looked nauseous. From the defendant's table, Erica didn't blink. But her knuckles went white as they gripped the chair's armrest. She didn't look scared. She looked cornered, like a chess player forced to swallow the realization that her king was boxed in by pawns. When the prosecutor was finished, Erica's defense lawyer rose and asked permission to cross-examine. The judge allowed it. "Mr. Hayes," she said, her voice tight. "Do you consider yourself obsessive?" "No," I said evenly. "I consider myself prepared." She cocked her head. "So you track everything your spouse does?" "I track everything my household does. I built a system that protects what I built." Erica knew that. She lived in it. The attorney paced. "Would you say your wife felt surveilled?" "No," I said. "She felt seen. That's what frightened her." The defense pushed a little harder, but the data didn't bend. And neither did I. By the time I stepped down, the courtroom had stopped seeing me as a husband. I wasn't even a victim. I was something else. I was the firewall. 2 days later, Howard Blackwell entered a plea deal: conspiracy, wire fraud, obstruction. He'd serve 7 years in exchange for full cooperation. Erica stood trial alone. 12 counts. Wire fraud. Identity falsification. Embezzlement. Attempted real estate fraud. She pleaded not guilty. I sat across from her on the final day of testimony. She looked up at me from the defendant's table and whispered during a recess, her voice brittle. "Do you really want to destroy me like this?" I met her eyes. "I'm not destroying you, Erica. I'm activating a system you forgot existed." The jury found her guilty on all counts. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. That, I suppose, was the last piece of authenticity she gave me, her refusal to perform weakness for sympathy. Even in defeat, she played the narrative. Hannah Reed's, on the other hand, remained untouched by law. She was suspended indefinitely from Helix after internal reviews showed she accessed restricted systems without authorization. But there was no proof she'd aided Erica. No money trail, no digital fingerprints, just curiosity dressed as oversight. Still, I couldn't let it sit. I exported every system log she'd touched, every IP, every timestamp, every file she reviewed, and encrypted it with an old cipher we used in training. Then I uploaded it to a private server I had built during my freelance years. Public-facing, anonymous. I titled the file drop, Unsupervised Supervision, the Reed's Archive. Within a week, security blogs picked it up. Anonymous exposés about internal monitoring abuses. Whistleblower chatter. Rumors. Hannah's name circulated quietly, then loudly. Her reputation didn't collapse in a bang, it dissolved. Piece by piece. The media latched onto the core of the story. The husband who built a system to catch his wife. Data never sleeps, how one analyst outplayed a corporate embezzlement ring. Surveillance or safeguard? The ethics of digital oversight in marriage. Some praised me. Others questioned my morality. But no one argued the outcome. Erica was convicted. Howard was imprisoned. The system worked. And me? I didn't shout. I didn't burn bridges. I just let the logs speak. And logs never lie. Erica Hayes was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. No bail. No reduction. No appeals granted. I sat in the back of the courtroom when the sentence was read. Not because I wanted to see her go down, but because I needed closure, a final keystroke to mark the end of a corrupted script. She didn't look at me. Didn't flinch. Just stood still, arms crossed behind her back, as the judge read the numbers that would now define her life. 18 years. It wasn't vengeance. It was balance. Once the proceedings ended, I didn't linger. I walked straight out into the open Virginia air, and it felt like the first real breath I'd taken in months. Within a week, I listed the house. It sold in less than 3 days, no staging, no fanfare. It wasn't a home anymore, just real estate with stained memories embedded in the drywall. I used the profits to buy a smaller house in Norfolk. A single-story bungalow with no guest room, no shared closets, and no hidden compartments. No need for a home office anymore either, my new systems lived entirely in the cloud. I didn't bring any furniture from the old place. Just a coffee maker, my laptop, and one photograph of my parents on their wedding day, proof that not all unions end in schematics and subpoenas. I declined my promotion at Helix Meridian and accepted a part-time lecturer position at Old Dominion University. 2 days a week, I taught a class called Financial Surveillance and Behavioral Risk. The first semester drew 30 students. The second? Nearly 80. I told them real stories, edited for legal confidentiality, of course. I walked them through actual case patterns, transaction anomalies, digital blind spots. Sometimes, I'd pause during a lecture and wonder how many of them were building something dangerous. A fraud ring. A social scam. Or maybe just a life on unstable footing. Still, I taught them everything. Because knowledge, unlike trust, is transferable. One morning, after a lecture on account laundering, a student waited until everyone else had left. She hovered near the desk, clutching her notes. "Professor Hayes," she said softly. "Do you think people can change?" I knew what she was really asking. Not about reform or therapy or time. She was asking if damage ever repairs. I looked at her. She had the same wide-eyed hope Erica used to wear when pitching a new client, before everything became performance. "I believe systems evolve," I said. "But people? Not easily. Most just learn to hide better." She nodded slowly. I could see the wheels turning, either disappointment or quiet acceptance. Maybe both. That afternoon, I drove the long way home, taking a detour that led me past the old Sterling Horizon building. The sign was gone. In its place, Linwood Partners, Digital Branding Division. A fresh coat of paint. New logo. New tenants. The bones were the same, though. Erica's office had been on the third floor, end of the hallway, second window from the left. I could still picture her standing there, coffee in hand, phone pressed to her ear, probably lying through a practiced smile. I didn't stop. Just kept driving. A few weeks later, I received a letter. Handwritten. Postmarked from the federal facility in West Virginia. I knew the handwriting before I opened it. Martin. I got lost in the numbers. I thought money could replace what we stopped being. Howard told me we could outsmart the system. I chose his blueprint over yours. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know, I never hated you. I just envied how sure you always were. And I tried to match that certainty with shortcuts. I failed. Erica. I folded the letter slowly, then slipped it into a folder labeled Processed in my file cabinet. Not Erica. Not personal. Just processed. Because some things don't deserve emotional metadata. Later that evening, I brewed coffee and sat at my desk, watching my server logs update. Not compulsively, just habitually. My system now included modules for real estate fraud detection, political campaign fund tracing, and even a pilot project for cryptocurrency laundering. Not because I wanted to monitor the world. But because someone had to. The way I see it, trust is a luxury. Not everyone can afford it. And those who've had it shattered, build systems instead. Systems can trigger false alarms. They can miss patterns. But human betrayal? Once it starts, it rarely stops on its own. The cruelest lies are wrapped in routine. The warmest smiles sometimes mask exit strategies. And trust, true trust, is the only asset without insurance. Once broken, it's not repaired. It's replaced. With structure. With logs. With proof. I don't live bitter. I live verified. And that's enough.